A huge weekend of official visits for Iowa football recruiting, already paying dividends with Trevor Lauck committing to the Iowa class of 2023. Four-star out of the Indianapolis area. We'll get to his significant commitment here in a moment. But first, a reminder from our sponsor. Find the benefits of Ascent Nutrition's wild harvested pine pollen powder, which contains nature's highest source of brassinosteroids, supports libido and hormone balance, while also providing over 200 nutrients beneficial for your overall health. Your order supports this channel here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Please visit goascentnutrition.com. So many different products, including this pine pollen powder. Use the code Hawkeyes at checkout to receive 10% off your order. That's Hawkeyes at checkout, the code Hawkeyes, to receive 10% off your total order from Ascent Nutrition. So Trevor Lauck committing to the Iowa Hawkeyes for the 2023 class. We mentioned the big weekend of recruiting. I will tell you about a live show we'll be doing here at the end of this segment. I'll be telling you about the show we've got scheduled, but we're going to be talking about Iowa recruiting. Trevor Lauck committing to the Hawkeyes. You watch him on tape. He's obviously a big guy at 6'6", 287, according to Rivals. He moves his feet well. I mentioned in the last video about Cannon Leonard from Illinois, who committed to Iowa's class of 23 as well. But, you know, he's 6'9", a bit of a long strider. And, of course, you have to be able to make quick steps. Your footwork's extremely important when you're playing on the line, especially at tackle and pass protection. And you watch Trevor Lauck on tape. He's got good footwork. I mean, for a guy his size, moves his feet well, finishes plays. I believe the term that's used is drive blocking. He knows how to drive block. And, again, just a really good finisher. I will say this, too, about Trevor Lauck. The kid is physical. All right. I think he gets a great grade for physicality and aggression off the line. Certainly, he hasn't been tested anything close to what he's going to get once he gets to the Big Ten as it relates to pass protection. That's going to probably be the biggest curve for Trevor Lauck. I did talk to Coach Don Patterson, who was excited about this commitment as well. And that's something he reiterated. His pass protection is usually the biggest learning curve for a guy like this. But to get a guy from Indianapolis area, friends with Leighton Jones, at least to my understanding, who's already a commit for the 23 class. Leighton expected to play on the interior of that offensive line. This is great momentum. The question now becomes, can they ride this momentum and grab a couple more guys from the official visit weekend? I think they will. Now, will it be Kadyn Proctor? I don't know. My first question when Lauck committed was, does this mean that maybe people have some reason to believe that Proctor is not going to commit to Iowa? I was told by someone who I believe to be in the know that that's not what this means at all. That doesn't necessarily mean that Proctor will be a Hawkeye, but just because Lauck committed is not a sign that Proctor is headed somewhere else. I did see someone speculate on social media, well, is there going to be room for Proctor? Listen, that's not the concern of mine. The concern would be that Lauck committed because he has reason to believe that Proctor is not committing. But again, I don't believe that to be the case from what I've been told. My only reason I asked that question was because you've got really, you look at the 22 and 23 classes together. You've got Cale Crow from Huxley. You've got Jack Dotzler from Wisconsin. Both those guys are in the 6'6", 6'7" range. Those are prototypical tackles. I don't see those guys moving on the interior. Now, maybe one of them ends up playing defensive line at some point, but you project those guys as true offensive tackles, guys playing on the outside. Then you look at that 23 class. Now, you've got Trevor Lauck, who's 6'6", 287. I mean, maybe he ends up playing inside, but to me, again, 6'6", probably going to be a tackle. Cannon Leonard at 6'9". I mean, he ain't moving anywhere but outside unless it's to the other side of the ball, maybe playing defense as a tall defensive lineman. So I think you've got four prototypical tackles there. Kadyn Proctor is playing tackle, believe you me. You know, and they had a couple other guys. They had got a couple other guys on their radar, including at least one I know that was there this weekend with Lauck and the rest of these recruits visiting, who's a true tackle. So we'll get to that in our future live show. But what I've been told is that this does not mean that Proctor is not still a viable option. I don't have a feel right now either way based on the weekend. I know I published a video yesterday talking about how I felt going into the weekend, and that was largely positive, just how things were shaping up. I felt like Iowa was in a good position to land Proctor. I would stand by that right now, not knowing really anything about how his visit went. I was told it went well, but again, what does that mean, and how does it compare to his visit to Alabama? I have no idea at this point. But as it relates to Trevor Lauck, It's a great consolation prize if you lose out on Proctor. And if you don't, boy, you're stacking bodies. And you've got some big bodies in there too. Iowa fans, and I've even said this at times, complained in recent years about size across the offensive line. And I think there's some substance to that. I think maybe size is a bit overrated at times when you're talking about offensive line play. But we see Minnesota and Wisconsin typically throwing out these guys who are 300 plus and doing so successfully. So Iowa certainly seems to be targeting bigger guys now, guys who are already pushing 300, or certainly taller guys with the likes of Leonard, Lauck, Crow, and Dotzler. Certainly, Kadyn Proctor's not lacking height either. So again, that's why those guys are going to be playing on the outside, but it gives Iowa some natural size that you simply cannot teach. So again, like the commitment from Lauck, the physicality, his footwork seems good. He's going to have to adjust to pass protection in the Big Ten Conference. This is a natural learning curve for any high school senior or senior to be, I should say, who'll be here in the class of 2023. So congratulations to Trevor. Congratulations to Iowa. I think we're going to hear more. I know there's been some cryptic tweets from some of the recruits that have already committed about Iowa fans just waiting because there should be more here coming. So stick right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Turn notifications on. Hit that little bell for notifications. Hit the subscribe button, of course, first, if you haven't already done so. Please hit the like button. And if you see something else when you've watched the Lauck tape, if you've watched his tape or you have some other opinion that I didn't mention, some other breakdown, feel free to share it in the comments. Would love to hear what you have to say here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Do want to tell you about a live show we'll be doing later this evening, 7 p.m. Central Time. I'll be live here for an episode of Hawkeye Hangout, taking your chats, your calls, your questions, and we'll be breaking down the official visit weekend that was for Iowa football. Tons of recruits. We'll run through just about everyone that I know about who was on campus for an official visit this past weekend. Again, right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm on YouTube. It'll also be available after the fact via podcast if you're wanting to listen to the audio format. Right here, 7 p.m. Monday, the 27th of June, talking about Iowa football recruiting.